Welcome to Stork'd, the podcast where I explore the many paths to defining and building family. This is Julia. Today I want to introduce you to Keren Eldad. Keren is a coach and host of Coached, the podcast. I wanted to introduce you to Keren because my experience in family building has been a journey of constantly setting and reframing my goals and intentions. To some extent, this isn't limited just to family building. It's what adulthood is. We have to make these difficult trade-offs and course corrections whenever we pursue a path, whether it's around your family or your career or something else you want in life. But it is true that the process to create what you want in your family life is sort of dependent on these external realities in which frame our lives. The journey is a really complicated one because it's not the one where you can say, I want to create something and you just go do it. You can't just put pen to paper and make it happen. You really have to do it in the context of the external world. And so that's where I believe that coaching comes in. And specifically, that's where Keren comes in. To me, there's nobody better suited to help you reframe your vision or get clear on your vision than a coach. One of the things that happens in my process to build a family is that sometimes I hit these stumbling blocks or these roadblocks and my emotions take hold and I feel like, oh my God, this is getting too hard. And there's a lot of self-doubt and fear and uncertainty that creeps in, all these really painful emotions. And so I have in the past used coaching to either help me get clear, why am I taking on these difficult challenges? Is it something that I truly want? And for me, I've determined the answer is hell yes. But also then, how do I work through or reframe the painful emotions? And Keren is really good at that. So that's why I wanted to share Keren with you today. Keren's passion and her career is helping people to reframe their lives. And she specifically talks about moving forward to live a life with enthusiasm. That's her little catchphrase, to live with enthusiasm. And I just love that because it reminds us that it's not just about living life. It's not just about moving forward and hitting our milestones and achieving our goals. It's really about creating a life that makes us happy. So in this episode, you're going to hear Keren describe her coaching philosophy. We're going to hear some tips and tidbits around her approach that we could apply to our daily lives. You're going to hear her push me a little bit to consider my own perspective because she asks some really challenging questions. She also doesn't shy away from having her own very strong opinions. Welcome to Stork'd, the podcast, and this is Keren Eldad. Keren, this podcast started as an exploration of the different ways that people go on fertility journeys. And the more I started talking about family and what a family could look like and what a family could be built like, the more I realized that many of us as adults face this pivot point where we have to make these major life decisions about who we are at our core and who's considered family. And when I think about resetting and re-envisioning, the first and only person that comes to mind is you as somebody who coaches that moment of change. So that's why we're here. And I want to hear from you a little bit about your story and then advice for our listeners about vision setting and pivoting.
Well, I really appreciate that, Julia. I've come to become a personal executive coach and a speaker through my own exploration, actually, of intimacy and fertility and humanity and career success. Really, all of them come hand in hand. The great Gloria Steinem, whose style, as you can see, I am now emulating. The great Gloria Steinem always said the political debate about equal rights is really a debate about fertility and the control of fertility. This has always been the pivot point and the vast differentiation point. As you know, early in my career, when I really started to coach, I dedicated my practice and as a mission to empowering women in particular. I coach more men than women today. This is an interesting turn of events. But I believe that if we can talk to people about all people, men too, about broadening their landscape, broadening their mental landscape, their images, their visions of what is possible for them in their life, of what is possible through fertility or without fertility, what empowerment really is, what family really is, what love really is, they'll come to a different experience of their life that includes freedom and equality for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's this broadening the landscape thing that's really challenging for most of us. For me at least, and you've been my coach at times, you have a vision, you have an expectation for the way life is going to go. And then there's moments when you realize, wait, my life isn't set up according to the plan. according to the way that I had written it down in my notebook years ago, or just imagined that it would be, or the way that everyone else's life looks. So that moment of broadening or expanding what life could be, the possibilities, is really tricky. Do you have any advice?
Well, sure. And I can give you a little master session about why you think this way and what you can do about it.
Yeah.
But I could actually talk about why your life sucks as a result of this and what you can do about it. The great Joseph Campbell, I think Joseph Campbell once said that we have to let go of the life we thought we were destined to live in order to live the life that we are supposed to live. To really have the hero's journey in life, to be masters of our own destiny, you have to let go of this template. Now let's talk about why you have this template in your head. It's not just because of your well-meaning and loving parents who have convinced you for generations, as they were convinced by other generations, that life needs to look a certain way. It's really because of the structure of our emotional needs. All of our emotional needs are the same. Every person has 6 of them. And how we prioritize them is essentially how we set our values or our targets in life. They are certainty, the need for significance. The third, the need for uncertainty, for variety in life, the spice of life. Love and connection, the fourth need. Everybody needs love. All of us need love. Finally, we have the top 2 needs. Growth. We are all looking for growth. And finally, the highest human emotional need is the need to contribute beyond ourselves. Giving is actually better than receiving. And so, when we really create our stories for life, the path, the journey, you got to start asking yourself a couple of basic questions. Did I come up with this story? Or am I buying into something that was given to me societally? Do I know that this is what I'm supposed to do? Is this because of what my mom and my teachers told me when I was a little kid, or what all my friends are doing? Is this really for me? Is this life for me? You've got to ask yourself those questions. One of the most beautiful things about when people actually arrive in coaching is they're ready to ask these biggest questions in life. Who am I? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What do I really want to do around here?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think with career and with certain other things, this self-reflection around who am I, what do I want, what are my value systems, and how do I create a roadmap to achieve them is totally applicable. But when you're talking about somebody who might be on an infertility journey, or let's rephrase that, a fertility journey that hasn't yet taken hold, or has been navigating life with a family member or set of family members that are challenging, it's not the vision you have. You can do all the visioning you want. You can do all the expectation setting or the reflection. Here I am, here are my values, here's where I want to go. But sometimes it's the external constraints that prevent you from achieving what you want. How do you deal with the disappointment?
The premise is flawed because actually that same thing can happen in your career. They can still be externals. Many people still blame a certain person for something going wrong. The vision being dependent of something else, the system being against them, etc. Everything in life depends on your willingness to ask the questions and your willingness to shift your perspective. You cannot control any condition. So you think that sometimes there's a little more emotional distance there, but there really isn't more emotional distance there. Also, you're forgetting, Julia, that we live in the era of self-actualization. This is very different from our parents. Generation X and above really start living for themselves. This is a very hyper-individualistic society, and are growing up to become independent and also people who can be relied upon, not just cogs in a familial machine. So we have to start thinking in a broader respect in all ways. It's just like leaders today can no longer do command and control. Let's talk about the corporate shift. If in the 70s Coca-Cola had a mission statement that read, "Our mission is to make as much money as possible for our stakeholders," today, not a single person, except maybe Warren Buffett, because he's been in the game for a really long time, would buy that stock. We like mission-driven. We like purpose-driven. We like servant leadership. We like people who invest in their teams. We like to see real engagement and real love and sustainability and environmental concerns and things like that. It's exactly the same thing that's happening in the family. We are beginning to ask, not, do I fit in here and how can I look my best as a Connecticut housewife, but more, does this fit the ultimate potential I can live out around here?
Okay, so if I'm going through the exploration process of trying to figure out what is my ultimate potential and what do I want from my family life, what are some of the questions or exploration points that I should be pursuing?
What am I afraid of?
So explain that concept.
What am I afraid of? What am I responding to? Where am I coming from? Am I coming from fear here, or am I coming from love? Am I thinking about having children because I believe that otherwise my life will be a hollow cuss emptiness? Or do I want to have children because I have so much love to give and I think that this is going to be really fun? Fully aware of the fact that children are a lot of trouble.
It's a lot of work.
I love kids more than anything, but I also understand what they imply. A lot of people think that the process of coaching is about creating externally, as in adding and adding and adding, and we're not. What we're really doing is chiseling away and chiseling away and chiseling away. And that's where I wanted to start with you, Julia.
Yeah.
I literally wanted to say, ask yourself, what am I scared of? Am I scared of dying alone? Am I scared of emptiness? Am I scared of alone? Am I scared of what it means to show up at a party by myself? Am I scared of facing people who will judge me? Am I responding at all to these things? And if you are, it's normal. But at some point you have to ask yourself, maybe I don't want to measure up anymore. Maybe I actually just want to belong authentically to me. And when you make that decision, and P.S., this is literally what Brene Brown's work is leading to, you are beginning to enter the realm of self-love and compassion. And when you're really there, you remove all judgment and you start living free.
Yeah, I think for me, due to a lot of coaching and a lot of self-reflection, I think I'm pretty comfortable with where I am and who I am. You know, I'm pretty happy at this state. I am ready to share my life with little members of a family. You know, I've got a new puppy. He's a joy. He's definitely this thing that I get to pour all my love into. But I'm ready to do that with kids too. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but puppies are the best thing that can ever happen to absolutely anyone.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I know you're a cat person too. Cats also fit in that category.
I love cats.
And I think it can be really challenging when you hit that point, particularly for us type A people, where you say, okay, I've checked the box, I'm ready. And then there are external factors or obstacles that you have to sort of navigate around.
That doesn't make any sense either.
No?
No, that's conditional. Look, this is going to sound a little Buddhist because it is. You can want what you want, and you should want what you want. But until you understand that it is available to you right now, and that the actual outcome that you're pouring yourself or your focus into doesn't matter, you are not going to be free. Remember, it's attraction. It's a question of attraction. And that's why whenever we are responding to lack, whenever we are responding to fear, for those out there who are familiar with the law of attraction, which is a law of physics, this will probably resonate, but if not, you'll certainly understand that if you are coming from lack or from desperation or from fear or from emptiness, you are probably going to attract something that is filling that vacuum from the exact same stance, the tit-for-tat stance, the codependent stance. You're not going to form very solid emotional bonds with anyone familially. But instead, if you're coming from a place that's truly there to give, that's really where you are. I'm here to give, I'm here to expand, I'm here to live my life fully, then you should be able to recognize that the only reason you can say that is because you already feel that way. You're already there.
So for those people who are hearing this for the first time, or for those who need a reminder about the law of attraction and feeling that sense of love constantly, how do you coach somebody or give advice for that moment where you know you should feel positive thoughts, or you know you should feel love, but you're just having a down moment?
Cool. So that's the most important thing. Look, you're up against reality, and reality is a very formidable opponent because reality can be very convincing. Like, let's say that you really thought that you needed a lot of money, but you didn't have a lot of money. So you would say to me, Keren, I don't have a lot of money. No problem. Shift your perspective. My bank account is open and ready to receive. I'm extremely capable. I've made some money before, and I can make it again.
These emotions that we're talking about can be really challenging and difficult. How do you recommend you handle difficult emotions?
Soothe yourself. Speak to yourself as you would speak to a child. And if you can't do that, distract yourself. Really, here's why. Because if you're on a subject that hurts, if you bang on it, it will hurt more. You're going to make it worse. So instead, watch Frasier. Listen to a great meditation. Read something funny like You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, which will literally start to help you absorb all of these foundational ideas. Get coached so that you really understand how to maneuver these situations a different way.
That's really helpful. I really like the don't bang on it concept, because so often I think we dwell on the things that are really painful. We just think about them over and over and over again and ruminate, and that can be really tough. It makes it a lot worse. Keren, I want to switch gears here for a second. Tell us a little bit about your coaching philosophy. What does it mean for you to be a coach? What do you think about when you're coaching?
Now, here's the very important thing that I want you to understand, and you know this, Julia. I coach people to get what they want. I care enormously about the goal. I just understand that once you do get the goal, you're going to want something else. It's just normal. This is how life works.
The goalpost is moving always.
The thing for you to understand is you didn't come here for the creation. You came here for the creating. Because in your learning how to manifest those glorious children of yours with detachment, with empowerment, with self-love, you are becoming a different kind of person. You came for the creating, for what is formed on the field when you're learning to play football, not for the touchdown. Good analogy?
Great analogy.
Doesn't know very much about football. I think that was pretty awesome.
I don't know a lot about football either, but I think we all want that touchdown moment. We want to have the dance in the end zone.
We do, but here's the deal. Do you think that Tom Brady goes home after a touchdown, high fives Giselle, and goes, all right, I guess my life is done now?
Definitely not.
No. He wakes up 2 days later, goes right back to the court, because that's where all the magic is. Do you really think that the second you have a child, that's it? All my problems are solved forever? So many people say this to me, as soon as I get married, that's it. I won't have any more issues. What are you talking about? This can only be uttered by a person who is not married.
I can absolutely see that. I think that when you're creating goals for yourself, you have this tunnel vision around what's next. And then you jump that hurdle, and then you have to create the next one and the next one. So what you're saying is really just stay on the field, stay positive, and stay present.
Be in it for the game and ask yourself, is this game pleasurable to me? By the way, it's the same. You know, I coach primarily C-level executives and superstars who own their own business, right? So really think about what you're saying here. You've been doing a job for 20 years that's been paying you an enormous amount of money, but you have not really remembered any of those chasms of time. You've worked until 11 p.m., usually on a good day. You've limited your life and your physical ability because you're so beholden to this job for such a long time. And very few people ask themselves first if they actually wanted to do this work, other than for prestige reasons, if it really lined up with their soul. And then once they were in the job, they were going for promotion after promotion, so weren't really asking about the nature of the challenge, about how delicious the work was to them, but rather just how do I get to the next step and the next step, like you're playing chess or something. Well, life isn't a chess game. And unless you adore chess, don't play. You have other possibilities. Everybody has other possibilities. Instead, you started asking just about Julia. How do I feel? Do I like this? Is this working for me? In what way is this working for me? You would start getting clearer and clearer answers.
Yeah, I think I've been able recently to be a little bit more in that direction. But you're right. My mind is like, what is plan A, B, C, D, E, F? You know, and it thinks in like maps around if this happens and these 5 things have to happen. And it's very hard for me to let go and just say, am I enjoying myself right now?
I get it. At first, I used to think that I was offering people advanced coaching just for more support and accountability and further lessons, but that's not it. I've come to understand that advanced coaching is about practice. This takes practice. This takes real commitment. It's the same way that you don't get to go work out for 3 weeks, have a beach body, and keep it. You don't get to have a tight mindset if you don't practice. You have to stay in practice. I read every day. I meditate every day. I definitely am in this to win this, and it's not just because it's what I do. It's how I live. And I really recommend that everyone out there, if you do have some form of spiritual practice, just commit to exploring it every single day. Before coaching, after coaching, for the rest of your life. That's how you intensify it.
And the practice is especially hard, I find, when it's an especially emotional topic. So it's easy to think about meditating or reading when you have a lot of spare time or you're not super stressed. But when you're in the moment of stress around, for me, I want to figure out what my family life looks like. And there's just so many emotions that come up for that. It's very hard to stay in practice.
Don't fixate there. So what you're saying is, and I know I've used this analogy with you before. It's like you're saying to me, Keren, I'm showing up at the world's greatest buffet and I'm only focusing on the one thing that I cannot digest right now.
Right.
Gives me a tummy ache. Why? Do you seriously go straight for the thing that gives you a tummy ache? Or do you go for the delicious, abundant kale salad and the perfect tres leches?
It's a good analogy.
All available to you, and that's what spiritual practice does. Spiritual practice and meditation are there to teach you how to focus, and they're also there to teach you that the thoughts are not thinking you. You are thinking the thoughts. And when you start to understand that, don't go to what hurts right now.
And you decided personally not to have kids. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I am part of the 15%. Statistically, that's the last statistic I reviewed of women in the United States who have decided to be child-free. We are also usually the high earners in our household.
So there's a correlation between...
We almost didn't exist. The time when Gloria Steinem was rising against the crazy batshit lady, Phyllis Schlafly, who kept saying that people wanted to stay in the home even though she herself had a full-fledged political career, LOL. We were an anomaly, and we were seen as radical feminists and people who were outrageous and didn't like men. For the record, I absolutely adore men. In fact, I'm married to the nicest one I've ever met. And both of us are real partners and adore each other and are happy and have made this conscious decision. That's not to say that it will never change. You know me, I believe in malleability in life. I don't think that anything should be black or white. Everything has room for growth always in life. But it should come from inspiration, not as a response to other people's expectations.
Keren, you were married before. How has that first relationship shaped your work?
Back when I was 31 years old, I was very, very scared that I would die alone. I had just read an insidious piece of crap named Marry Him Already by Laurie Goldstein, who has since written another book, which I also read, also insidious piece of crap, and actually given to me by my agent, interestingly enough. I guess you didn't know. And still remembering that article in The Atlantic and that book, I remembered how it triggered such fear in me that I was going to end up over 35, sad and alone like those ladies in Sex and the City, who, by the way, were neither sad nor alone. And I ended up forcing myself into a relationship with someone I really did know on lots of visceral levels was not for me. And he preyed on these deep insecurities. I will die alone. I'm getting older. I'm losing my looks. I'm losing my fertility. He just talked about it incessantly. You're not getting any younger. You look a little chubby today. He was massively abusive in lots of ways. But the truth of the matter was I was buying it. Because since I was 25, I was told by my grandmother that I'm losing my looks, and by my mother that I should hurry up already because a woman with no children has absolutely no value. And actually using those words. Now, perhaps other people out there have not been exposed to such radical indoctrination. I'm, by the way, one of 55 first cousins and the only one who doesn't have children. To allow myself to come to those conclusions, I had to come full circle, and I had to go through a real thinking process, a real, what do I want to do with my life? What am I ready to do with my life? And I want to challenge a couple of assumptions, not only about the family, but also about the mother. I think that I'm the most eternal person I know. I think that so was Mother Teresa, and neither of us has biological children. I am not comparing myself to the greatest saint who ever lived, but I am saying I'm a suicide counselor. I coach people for a living. I am adoring of people and of children and of animals, as you know, I have several. And I think that that's fulfilling enough for me right now.
So when you're thinking about family and fulfillment, you're thinking about the way in which you're sharing love with others, not necessarily your nuclear family unit.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And you can do that with everybody. By the way, it'll also make you a lot more loving towards your family. You're going to be accepting of them. They are where they are. And you'll stop responding to criticism that's nonsensical to you. But you have to come full circle. And usually you have to go, unfortunately, through such a difficult experience as I did, which was a really horrible, abusive marriage.
So you come out of this marriage, you've got a renewed sense of self and where you're headed. You are now the foremost coach on creating a life that is meaningful, is enthusiastic. You've got a book coming out and a podcast.
And this is the most important thing to say. No matter what your reflection is on what a family looks like, be kind to other people who are brave enough to go for what they want to go for. I think it's a nice time for all of us to accept the many different varieties in which families come.
I think that is so important, that it may look one way to you, or you may think it should look one way, but everyone's got a different path. Everyone's got a different perception.
Gay families and single mothers and people who've chosen to not have children and people who adopt children and foster children. It's all wonderful. It really is all wonderful.
Well, this is awesome. Keren, because this is your life's work and you've done so much in this space of coaching individuals to get what they want, is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to share with this audience, or any resources you would like to provide?
Sure. Well, I always like to share resources. And the most important one is, if you are struggling with these issues out there and you really want to start asking yourself some serious questions in life, I recommend the work of Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, and her subsequent works. I also want you to know that Gloria Steinem only had one bestseller, one New York Times #1 bestseller in her entire lifetime. Isn't this interesting? And she wrote it in 1990. And guess what the book was about? It was about self-love, and it's called A Revolution from Within. After 40 years of advocacy and championing and being at the forefront of absolutely everything, Gloria Steinem stands up and says, until we learn to love ourselves, to accept ourselves, to do the most radical thing in the world, which is to actually let ourselves be who we are, we cannot do it for anybody else.
Okay, and so Louise Hay, Gloria Steinem. Anything else?
There are several episodes of Coached, my podcast, that I've dedicated to answering people's questions like this, and just to listen in to clarify for yourself how to speak to yourself, how to probe, how to ask the questions, and how to shift your perspective to a gentler one that'll make you feel better.
Can you give us a quick tutorial on how to speak to yourself now?
Yeah, so this is the best way. Whenever the thoughts of, I need this and it's not coming, or this is not working for me, or I'm falling behind, or I'm so scared, this is happening to me, regret, resentment, anxiety, all the anxious thoughts come. I want you to learn how to do one very, very simple process called the pause principle. I teach it at every turn.
You've taught me this one. This is a good one.
15 seconds, just a 15-second pause. And by the way, I recommend that people write this down because it helps you focus. 3 questions in those 15 seconds. Number 1, is the thing that I'm scared of the problem, or is my reaction with fear problem? For example, I am going to die alone. Is that true? Of course not. My response to that, as if it were true, that's the problem. Number 2, is there any other way to see this? I'm going to die alone. Yes, there is another way to see it. It's very possible that you will likely not die alone. Other people have managed to not die alone, and so can you. Other people have managed to find love at 40 and 50 and 60 and 70 and 80, and so can you. Other people have managed to manifest careers that are glorious and fantastic, and so can you. There are lots of other perspectives, and at least find yourself a couple of examples, role models that you really know to get you into the other side. Now, when you've reached that level, which is Jedi Master level, you can ask a third question, which is, what's the opportunity here? Well, how about I go out and create something? How about I try something new? Maybe I should pick up this book that I've never picked up before. Maybe there's a way of seeing this as happening for me rather than to me. A critical shift in perspective. And you will find when you're doing that, that there's always another perspective available to you. And when there's another perspective available to you, freedom is available to you.
This is such a good reminder. I had forgotten the question, in what way is this for you and not to you? That's so important. And it's one I used to spend a lot of time thinking about it. That's awesome advice. Really fantastic advice. Keren, where can we find you if we need coaching or to listen to your high energy voice or read materials from you?
Thanks, Julia. Well, Coached, my podcast is up and has already 14 episodes in it. I answer people's questions. So if you're into the Frasier format, you're going to love the show. I'm on CoachKeren.com and at Coach Keren on Instagram. And I always answer everybody's emails and replies. And that's it. We're about to go into the last new coaching rounds of the year. So I do hope that anybody who has been thinking about changing their life does so.
It's so exciting. Congratulations on all of that.
Thank you. I'm super excited too.
I appreciate you and all your wonderful positive feedback and your enthusiastic way of seeing the world.
I'm always here. It's a pleasure, and it's nice to stay friends forever too.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Keren.
Thank you for listening to Stork'd with your host, Julia Carroll. This podcast is changing the conversation around the ways people define and create family. For more information, visit storkedpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter. And while you're there, leave us a message describing what a modern family means to you. That's STORKD podcast.com.